It's a new week. That means we're gonna do a new build here at the Schematik workshop. And I have tons of ideas on what to build. But then this morning I was walking to the office and inspiration hit. It is spring here. And when it's spring here, the weather is always a little bit unpredictable. It's very unclear whether you need to wear a coat, bring sunglasses, wear a jacket, whether you can wear shorts. So I was like, why don't I make a little weather station that I can look at every morning to decide what I'm gonna wear. But before we do, we need to start the timer, because last week we made this stopwatch that we're gonna use to time every project to show how fast schematic projects can go. So let's hit start now. And let's get going. So I'm gonna go to schematik.io. So let's type in what we actually want to build here. So let's go for an ESP32 based weather station that shows the weather and temperature. So let's start there. Every week we'll make a more complicated build, and in the building process we'll learn how to make Schematik better. For this build, we'll probably run into some issues that we'll fix before this video goes live. And this just proactively makes the tool better. Now, last week we started with the stopwatch, very easy project, but we're using that today. And then this week we're doing the weather station. As we go, we'll make more complicated builds. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to make these wireless speakers, all of these types of cool things that are really cool real-world applications of Schematik. If you want to follow along and you don't follow us yet, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have 500 subscribers today, which I'm very grateful for, but I obviously want to grow that number much. Also, please send me feedback on how we can make this content fun, how we can make good videos for you, what questions you have. One of the feedbacks I got last time was that my videos were way too short. Normally I make these kind of like quick videos for social media, but what I heard from you, that we're on YouTube here, and in YouTube things are a little bit more chill. We can take our time, we can discuss, we can have some fun. So that's what I'm doing with this video. Let me know if you like it. I'm very curious. And now I see that Schematik is done with loading. So let's have a look. We can see the code here. But before I'm looking at the code, maybe we should look at the diagram. So what do we see here? We see that it actually has a humidity sensor, a barometric sensor, and an LED display. So what it's trying to do here, it's trying to be a real weather station where it's measuring the weather through sensors. Now that's really cool, but actually I don't think it's that what we need here. We actually need something that looks at the weather predictions. So let's reprompt it and tell it to look at the predictions. And there's one more thing that I want to do here is I don't want to use the display that it shows there. So the display that Schematik picked here is a 1306 display, and that is this display here. It's a very common display. I really like it. It looks very old school. Even the back looks really cool. But this display is not the most fun to show weather data on because it has those digit thingies. I recently bought this display. This is a wave share display, and it almost looks like an Apple Watch, and I think that is really cool. It's a color display. So let's reprompt. Let's use Wi-Fi instead to fetch the weather data. Now what Schematik is doing is it's trying to figure out, okay, what are the changes that are needed here. It will fetch the new components that are part of this new change, and it will make the changes. And I'm not going to edit this out of the video because I think one of the cool things about Schematik is that you can change a lot of the things as you go. All right, so we got the display here and the dev kit, and that's all we need. So let's wire things up. Alrighty, so let's grab our kit. In this kit we have a lot of stuff that we don't need today, but we do have our lovely ESP32 dev board. I really like this one. It's made by Freenove, and the reason I like it is that it has this incredible board that just allows you to build without soldering. And in the beginning, if you're a beginner like me, but hopefully also like a lot of you that want to get started with building, it's really nice to use a board that you don't need to solder with. You just need to look at what the cables say here and then connect it to the right thing. So let's start with ground. Ground you always need. That's just this one. We're all wired up, but before I shoot the code onto the board, let's have a look at what the code even says. It's a pretty long code file, that's really cool. At the top, very often what Schematik does is it adds the things that you need to configure yourself. For example, here it says we need to use our Wi-Fi, we need to share the password of the Wi-Fi so that the new device can actually go on the internet. Now this is really cool, but there's one problem. I'm seeing that we also need to give an API key for a weather API. So for those of you that don't know, API keys are basically ways to access APIs. So in this case, there's this open weather API that has a lot of data on the weather, and we're going to be using that for a project, but we need that key. Now I don't like using API keys, and maybe there's actually an API that doesn't need it. So let's ask Schematik, can you use an API that doesn't require an API key? So again, it will now rewrite the code and we'll see what happens. Alright, so it got back to us and it found an API that we don't need an API key for. It's called Open Meteo. The only thing we need to do is put our own Wi-Fi and password in. I'm not going to do that on camera. So now all I need to do is hit deploy, and the cool thing in Schematik is it deploys from the browser. So I don't need to install any software. I can just deploy this project. So it's always a little bit scary, but if I'm looking at the logs now, it says it's successful. Yeah, let's look at what it looks like. So that's pretty cool, but I don't love it. I think the design is not great, and I think it shows a lot of data. And actually what I want to see is whether I need to bring sunglasses, a jacket, things like that. So let's prompt Schematik again and just say that. All right, so it made these changes as well. I'm very curious what this is going to look like. Let's hit deploy again and have another look. Now this is super cool. I love this thing. It shows me what I need to bring, keeps it super simple. And yeah, I think this thing looks amazing. The UI looks incredible. It shows me what weather it's going to be, but also what I need to bring. So it's basically perfect. And I would say this project is practically done. Now, obviously I can improve this project. Like one of the things I could do is make it smaller. There's a lot of cables right now. I could shorten those, maybe do some soldering, maybe 3D print a case around it. But I'm really happy with what we got to today. We're done now, so let's stop the timer and see where we're at. 28 minutes and 13 seconds. I love how fast it went, and we didn't even make it super easy for ourselves. We did multiple iterations and things like that. And still we are building a custom weather station in less than 30 minutes. And this is why I love working on Schematik, because we enable this type of hardware development. That's it for this project. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with another build. Now, if you have any idea on what my next project should be, or you have feedback on this video, please let me know in the comments. I'll see you soon. Cheers.